Hey everyone, this is Chris Bodor with the Ancient City Poets, and we got an open mic coming up this Sunday, last Sunday of every month. We've been doing it through Zoom ever since COVID happened, and I would get in front of the marquee of the Corazon where we had been doing the readings, and it was a way for me to connect everyone and say, one day we'll be back at the Corazon when COVID 19 CDC things have been lifted, but as it turns out, they're calling it quits. The Corazon's closing up. They put the place on the market, so we'll have a new location to announce once we stop Zooming and we get back to physical, face-to-face open mic poetry readings. We're going to do something outside first and then move on inside when it's safe. But long story short, we're on Zoom this Sunday, and come and check it out. The theme is love for February, the great things about love, the bad things about love, anti-love, love, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what the theme is for February. So check it out on Sunday at 3 p.m. We're going to Facebook Live. Check it out.
All right, we are live.
Welcome to Ancient City Poets, St. Augustine, Florida. And I have the great pleasure of introducing my mentor, colleague, and longtime friend, Joel Lipman. I had the great pleasure of being at the University of Toledo as a visiting writer, largely due to Joel, and got to know him a lot better. And I'll just give you a brief introductory statement about who Joel is. He is a professor emeritus of English at the University of Toledo and founder of Abracadabra Studio of Poetics. In 2008, he was appointed the first poet laureate of Lucas County, Ohio. You can see Joel's visual poems online at the Poetry Foundation and in fine literary magazines like Poetry and Fiction International. Since the 70s, his focus has been on visual and spatial poetics. In 2019, Lipman and Ellen Sander published Wood, the first volume of poems from Woodshed, the Belfast, Maine writing group. Joel is the author of many works, including Provocateur, Machete Chemistry, and Mercury Vapor Lamp. And now I'm going to introduce Joel and let him show of some of his visual poetry and talk about it a little
bit. All right, I should be unmuted. Can you all hear me adequately?
Yes.
Great, perfect. Well, what a pleasure, and thank you, Christy, and everyone else for welcoming me to your workshop as a guest. Christy's remarks, I think, do give a adequate insight into the focus of my work. I certainly continue to write textual poetry as well as visual, but my interest, I guess, really, since discovering the work of Kenneth Patchen and D.A. Levy in the 60s, and then becoming interested in Russian literature of the 20s, visual poetry, and pursuing typography, learning how to set type, and spending enough time in that enterprise to have a feel for individual letters. Oh my, I'm going to lose my battery. So just a minute while I plug in my phone, really. Anyhow, I began to do visual poetry, and at one point was working in Chicago after spending a year or two in Buffalo, New York, and just out of kind of an impetuous interest, bought a rubber stamp pad and started corresponding with many poetry friends using rubber stamp letters primarily. And that one thing led to another, and I have developed a large inventory of typefaces in rubber stamps and woodblock, and just started pursuing the idea of the poem as a structure that you write kind of very much letter by letter, with an appreciation for the graphic bite, look, and feel of type, with an interest in exploring the page as something more than a blank surface on which to lay my words, and to look at the found page with the recognition that I learn something all the time when I examine new or obsolete pages. And the old pages began to interest me graphically more and more as I began to disassemble books and take apart the unified structure of books and look at pages out of sequence so that I could see the graphic design of the page a bit differently than with the narrative dominating, and have just developed a practice as a visual poet that starts with what is already there on the page. So with rare exception, most of the language that I use is somewhere in the page that I overprint. And on those occasions when I work with a clean page, there's usually an impetus sort of like what I described. There's a bit of direction that comes from some other printed matter. But let's look at the 5 slides that I have, and I think they'll illustrate. So can we look at the first one, Clay? Oh, that's the second, I think, isn't it? But
Yes, that's the first one.
That's the first one. Okay, let's go to that.
And next.
Do we have? I've lost.
Clay, can we see the next slide? Yes, perfect.
Okay. Which I don't have the slide, so just tell me what it is that you have.
It's the
dose is 10 or 20 drops.
The dose is 10 or 20 drops. Just a second. All of a sudden I've totally lost my Zoom. I don't know if people can see me.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
You can hear me.
Now we can hear you again. Yeah.
All right. The slide that you're looking at, let me show it to you in this version as well, and just to give you a sense of its scale. It's about 10 by 18 inches on the original page. My ideas in this were to examine the importance of letters, and I was just starting an alphabetic book. So A was the first letter. I was using a page, a double wide spread, 2 pages out of sequence, but that formed this beautiful semi-cross with an opening in the middle. I had been looking at a collection of illustrated manuscripts, so I spent time using a metallic type and very lightly brushing my type surface with a gold ink on top of red that gave it a rich, warm, kind of almost bloody, dried blood look. And the plants and the language was interesting to me. It's a successful piece that's been reprinted a few times. Let's look at the next one. Now, again, which one is number 2? I can't see them.
Origins of Poetry. Remove the finger.
Remove the finger. The Origins of Poetry series which several of these are part of, has been a kind of 20-year obsession to track the ideas that inspire me as a poet in the different books and pages that I work with in rubber stamping. That particular page was selected by Jeff Huth when he developed a portfolio of visual poetry that was subsequently printed in Poetry Magazine in 2008. And it was the first of 3 of my poems that have been printed in poetry over the years. Again, it has a kind of an inspiration in artist books. It's a carefully done page with decorative elements, but I want each individual letter and the arrangement of each word on the page to draw your eye and to kind of occupy the reader's or viewer's aesthetic interest. Let's look at the next one, which should be miscellaneous worker.
That's right.
There, the interest was initially just in that obsolete IBM punch card. And I had a stack of them that I had somehow hung on to over the years, and started working with them. All the language that I appropriated appears somewhere on that blue punch card. So Miss Worker is up in the upper left-hand corner, and there was a little signature by someone who had checked off the information. And I love it for its kind of industrial type look. And because to me, it's a mini poem that has a solid image, and the idea of miscellaneous worker to me tells a kind of a blue collar story that doesn't need a whole lot of elaboration when printed in the kind of rough, gritty black on blue way that that graphic appears. And what's in the next one?
This
Again,
is boutique politics.
Boutique politics, or broken down so that it's boutique politics, is from the letters of Norman Mailer. And after Mailer's death, I think his letters were posthumously published, if I remember correctly, but the New Yorker ran a sequence of his letters, and I went through there, found phrases that interested me, and was working with an old text called The Boomers. It was written many years before the popularization of boomers to describe a generation was part of the vocabulary of our culture. But the pages are wonderful to work with. And so I adopted bits of Norman Mailer's highly political language to a series of about 12 or 15 poems, of which Boutique Politics is one. And what's next?
And this is the last one. This is Remember How We Form
Yes.
One Another.
Remember How We Form One Another. Again, from the origins of poetry. What's worth noting there is an interest in the desiccated, aged, near crumbling paper. That piece of paper, you can see it's yellowed, almost a kind of sepia as it's dried out. And so the fibers of the paper spoke to me of kind of the fragmentary things that sustain life. And the book is in French. It's an architectural manual, very fine, thin line mechanical drawings that spoke to me about fragility and structure and unity. And the phrase, that poem was done during the pandemic. I've been doing visual poems throughout this last isolated year that in one way or another to me represent the circumstance. And so that is one of a series that that grew out of the last 8 or 9 months work.
Joel,
And yes,
do you think that later I could have one of your addresses to give to the group? Because I think some of them would like to follow your work. And
bet.
so I'll do that for the group.
great.
And it's been wonderful to have you. I'm so glad you could come and be with us.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Stick around if you can, and
Yeah.
you look wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all for having me and having an interest in this visual work. Christy, great to hear from you and to collaborate with you on this. All right, I'm backing off.
So Christy, we're going to move Christy to the end, and if we have time. And so I'm going to go first. Our theme again was love in all its forms, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I've got 3 short poems that follow that theme. So the first one is what I would consider the good. I don't remember who these people were, but it sounded like it was good. Dusk to dawn. With the switch of the light, I turn to face you, knowing that darkness falling with dusk will conceal any memory I might have of your eyes, or the truth that this is only lust. With one slight tug at the bow tied round my neck, my sundress falls to my feet, and my naked shadow is finally in your hands. Your touch is soft, warm, too warm, but we screw anyway, over and over again, balanced on lightness till the edge of dawn. You claim beauty in our actions, yet I cannot let morning shine on your face or my heart in light I might remember. So this one is the bed. You taste like a poem. Broken bad habits lie scattered across the floor, bundled with our socks, tennis shoes, and other discarded clothes. There was no room for them in the single bed, with you and I already squeezed between the blanket and the sheet. You taste like a poem tonight, but each metaphor I make for you melts in my mind like a roasted marshmallow. For words cannot taste sweet, and similes have no sex appeal. And this one is the ugly. The charmer. You decorate people with your words and ways, with just the right amount of charm. Last night you had me thinking I was an ice cream sundae, topped with nuts and cherries. When we screwed, your sweat poured down on me like hot caramel, rich, smooth, oozing with the whipped cream. I know you would love to eat me up, but please don't leave me just a sticky glass. Thank you.
Whoa.
And I am going to call up Alethea. Is she there? Yeah, let me let you read, okay? You're new, so we want to hear. Introduce yourself, where you're from.
She has to unmute.
Surprise there. So I am from upstate New York in a small town called Corning, where all the beautiful glass comes from. And I have worked with Chris a few times in the past, long time ago, but yeah. So I didn't really know that there was a theme. I just kind of saw it on Facebook, so I jumped in, but I think, so the missile, I crochet a blanket for you, knowing you are walking the path of its inspiration. I'm recording the most painful incident of my childhood into the phone. Tears fall onto the stitches meshed tight together. The salt of my wounds, now yours. My heart breaks in the seconds of silence left as I try to keep you from hearing me cry. 2. On the trail, you record your own response. My call never goes unanswered, no matter how many times the words fly in the wind. I hear your footfalls, the earth pressing up to meet you, and your heavy breath as you let your vulnerability slip into the microphone. It drifts off into the canopy for safekeeping. It's where you keep all of your ghosts. 3. I'm on my knees, edging the overgrown grass on the sidewalk with hand shears. I hear you say, "You can trust me." And this, more than the "I love you," which comes before and after it, fills my heart to overflowing. I sit back on my ankles, dried grass covering my legs, and I let the weight of gravity pull me into the fact that your kindness makes the joy rise up through me. 4. The streets in town are empty, except for a few who wander without destination. I find the walking path we used to call the Peace Bridge. The flags of nations were flown in solidarity. It's the same place I once came to drown myself like Virginia Woolf, but now I only come here to capture sunsets to win your heart. The memory of that emptiness haunts me less. 5. The world is catching fire in the distance. The geese float down the river, unaware of all their hollow honks echo under the bridge. I record the church bells ringing, a sound that forever reminds me of my grandmother. It lets my mind drift into the safety of her arms and the warmth of a love that's hard to find. But all I can hear is your voice in a loop, telling me about an imagined life together. 6. On paper, we are two broken souls with delicate hands. You call our crossed paths magic, but I know it as the universe. Neither are more mystical than the other. It only proves that in our dark history, in our soft underbellies, is a breath of hope. It whispers there in our heavy, misshapen hearts, like the sunset before me. 7. My little world is dusted in orange now. The river drinks every reflected drop of summer as the cloud bank spreads wider, moving closer and releasing the sun from behind its gauzy gray skirt. I feel you kiss my neck, the beating of your heart against my spine. The ghost of your touch only imagined. My heart longs to know its truth.
Thank you. Okay, next up is David Pitt.
Thank you.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Good. I'm going to read a couple of short poems, not that I wrote because of the week it is. These are by Lawrence Ferlinghetti. He, as you all know, died last week. Was a major influence. He and E.E. Cummings were the two poets that really got me into poetry back in, say, I think 58, 59, like before you all were born. But I just fell in love with the light way that Ferlinghetti can deal with heavy subjects. I really anyway, okay. Don't let that horse eat that violin, cried Chagall's mother, but he kept right on painting. and became famous and kept on painting the horse with violin in mouth. And when he finally finished it, he jumped up upon the horse and rode away, waving the violin. And then, with a low bow, he gave it to the first naked nude he ran across, and there were no strings attached. Okay, one more. Fortune has its cookies to give out, which is a good thing, since it's been a long time since that summer in Brooklyn, when they closed off the street one hot day and the firemen turned on their hoses and all the kids ran out in it in the middle of the street. And there were maybe a couple of dozen of us out there with the water squirting up to the sky and all over us. Well, there were maybe only 6 of us kids all together, running around in our bare feet and birthday suits. And I remember Molly. But then the firemen stopped squirting their hoses all of a sudden and went back into the firehouse and started playing pinochle again, just as if nothing had ever happened. Well, I remember Molly looked at me and ran in, because I guess really we were the only ones there. Thank you. I think we should all remember the contribution that
Thank you so much. He
Getty.
was such an influence for me too,
And
David.
he died 5 days ago. So.
Yeah, 101 years old. He was 101.
101, amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and actually pictures of the Gone World and Coney Island of the Mind. 1958, the year I was born, they came out. Yeah. So thank you. So next up is Chris Castle. Chris with a C and Castle with the K. She said it 100 times and I still always get it wrong. So, come on, Chris, give us what you got.
Well, I hope you will indulge me. I can read this totally as a poem, or I can play it for you with the melody. So is it permissible to use the melody? This is something I've been working on a long time, and I actually finally completed it yesterday. So, actually late last night. So this is, I guess, from the bad and the ugly. I never saw the teardrops that you say that you have shed. You say that you've been lonely, so you found another bed. You never lost a wink of sleep that I have ever seen. And the way you always put the blame, it really is obscene. I am not your mother, though you say you think I am. I am not your sister, you do not understand. You have been my lover, and I have been your friend that disappeared forever. You brought it to an end. It's not the way, it's not that I still want you after all the lies and pain. The way we keep the cycle, well, I think it was insane. It's not that I still miss you in the closeness of the night, and I do not miss the conflict or the hurtful, hellish fights. Oh, you are not my mother, though you say you think I am. I am not your sister, you do not understand. You have been my lover, and I have been your friend that disappeared forever. You brought it to an end. Please don't try to call me in your idle hours today. I just don't want to hear you or what you have to say. I've learned to live without you. I finally got release. You're not part of my life, so just leave me now in peace. 'Cause you are not any other, even though you think I am. I am not your sister, you do not understand. You have been my lover, and I have been disappeared forever. You brought it to an end. It's always been about you, what you want and what you need. I may not be an angel, but didn't have to make me bleed. With the quickness of your temper and your wicked verbal blows. Only who am I without you? I don't really know. But I am not your mother, though you say you think I am. I'm not your sister. You do not understand that you have been my lover and I have been your friend that disappeared forever. You brought it to an end. I am not your mother, and I am not your sister, and I am not your friend.
Very good. Thank you, Chris. I am not your mother. So, all right. That's awesome. Up next is Doc Janning. Take it away, Doc.
Okay. Joel mentioned the late D.A. Levy, and I was honored to be part of a ceremony for the, what was it now, the 50th anniversary of his suicide in 2018 at his graveside, which is here in the Cleveland area. He wrote a poem titled "The Wind Inside." It's the wind inside that we ride and the outside that can't keep up. My response to that is the wind inside is the wind on which we ride, and the outside, oh, the outside struggles and tries, but cannot ever keep up. So I read that during the ceremony. It was quite moving. He was very much reviled in his era, arrested several times and so on. It was something else. And then someone who was it that mentioned Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who passed away this past week. He wrote a poem based on a poem by Khalil Gibran titled "Pity the Nation." And I took Ferlinghetti's poem, "Pity the Nation," and I expanded upon it. Pity the nation whose people are become sheep, whose shepherds mislead them with twisted words, teaching hate instead of love. Pity the nation whose leaders are intolerant liars, whose sages and scientists are silenced, while bigots, fabricators, and frauds haunt its airwaves. Pity the nation which raises not its voice, except to praise and acclaim the bully as hero, and aims to rule the world with bigotry, misogyny, force, and torture. Pity the nation which knows no language or culture but its own, while co-opting others' ways. Pity the nation whose every thought, every breath is of money, which sacrifices integrity for political expediency, greed, and power, sleeping the sleep of the too well-fed while leaving its homeless and destitute to die. Pity the nation divided by factionalism, each faction deeming itself the arbiter of all, with compromise a victim of partisan rancor and inflexibility. Pity the nation and its people who allow their rights to be ended and their freedoms to be washed away, in the name of security. My country, tears of thee, sweet land of liberty. And I like the music of the late Leonard Cohen, and I wrote a poem which echoes him. Where the heck did I put it? Oh, hold on a moment, please. I'll pull it up. There we go. I saw a video clip of him sitting in a cafe in Montreal, and he mentioned the motto of, I don't know if it's remember if it's the province of Quebec or the city of Montreal, Je me souviens, which means I remember. And I wrote this poem. Je me souviens. I remember hearing a wordless song, a sweet song of life, a deep sacred song of love. Je me souviens, je me souviens. I remember drinking the essence of your soul, the sweet nectar of your mind, the infinity in your eyes. Je me souviens, je me souviens. I remember tasting the stars in the sky, the moon in the night, the sun's lilting warmth. Je me souviens, je me souviens. I remember us being there together, being inside those feelings, being at the convergence of forever. Je me souviens, je me souviens. And I remember now, with feelings of love, with feelings of warmth, with thanks that you were. Je me souviens, je me souviens. And I remember now, with feelings of love, with feelings of warmth, with thanks that you were. Je me souviens, je me souviens, je me souviens. Thank you.
Thanks, Doc. Talking about all my muses, Kahil Gibran. Mary Yeck, you are up next. Can remember to take yourself off mute. You're still on. No, go click. You had it for a second, but you clicked it. Look at the bottom left where it says mute. There should be a microphone. There you
Yeah.
go. There you go.
Okay. Okay. Well, hello, everybody. I haven't been here for quite a while. And sorry, no love today. It's just too beautiful outside. I have a couple of older spring poems that I felt were more appropriate. So here we go. Estuary with herons. The world's green lung coughs, clears itself, breathes under a red sunrise. On the beach, a child who wants to be a bird works sharpened scapulae. She watches herons spread their wings, lift off. Her curls feathered to a crest above her head. She runs, falls, becomes a woman. The crest fans out, catches the sun's rays. Burnt umber falls over her shoulders. The hint of feathers disappears into skin of a lioness, sun gold, sensuous. The window where her heart should be is humid, cloudy. Inside, a child riding a heron soars above the estuary. And thank you. The second poem, Dark Matter, Dark Energy. The white moon spills its pail of shadows over the lawn to the pond's edge. The pond swallows. A circle of houses on the bank, their wide-eyed windows open and glowing, reflect on the night. In the yard, a holly tree is lit from within. Will-o'-the-wisp climbs in the branches. A small shape moves out of the grasses. A disturbance in the field of vision of one who is motionless in anticipation of the next moment, when a stag steps into liquid light to drink this reflection. A woman holds a child, their arms outstretched, point into the dark. A man stands beside her, slips an arm around her waist and watches. The stag raises his head in a cloud of mist above the shore and steps into the middle atmosphere between where we started and what we rocket through, still vast, impenetrable as mystery, still a gallery of shadows. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. That was great. All right. Up next, Tony Libro.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Antoinette Libro, or Tony, as most tend to call me. I'm going to read a couple of playful poems to start around the idea of Valentine's Day. And I was playing with the idea of sweetheart and sweet tooth. So the first one will be a haiku, really a senryu, which is a kind of humorous haiku. Valentine's Day. My sweetheart seeks my sweet tooth. The second one is a tanka, T-A-N-K-A. The tanka is actually predates haiku and was popular during the Japanese court times back 1300 years ago. So it's a 5-line poem. And this goes, holiday dessert, coffee, chocolate, chip, gelato. My sweet tooth vies with my sweetheart. So, and here's another tanka, which is probably the closest thing to a love poem. Indigo skies along the Tuscan hillside. In my dreams, you still bring me bouquets of white blossoms. And my dog of 15 years went to doggy heaven in August. This is called Dinner Time, and it's about her in part. My dog knows what time it is. Here she is standing in front of me, tail wagging, and with that glint in her eye that says, it's time to go for a walk on this cloudless summer day, right before time for dinner. We are calmed by the stupor of late afternoon at the shore, each of us lost in sniffy thoughts as we meander up and down the familiar tree-lined streets, a gentle breeze at our backs. But then a raucous cry punctuates the day with a cawing overhead, and a big dark bird nosedives into the cedar tree before us, causing small birds to fly out of the tree in all directions and stops us in our tracks. The dark bird, a crow no doubt, flies out of the tree with a hatchling hanging from its beak. The little birds chitter and chase after the crow, which flies fast and high across the street to a rooftop, perching on the top of a chimney and finishing what it came for on the cloudless afternoon. Mhm. Sorry about that.
Oh, Tony.
Sorry. You may have heard on the news that Mount Aetna is acting up, been acting up for this past week. And so I thought I'd read a poem about it because I certainly do love that area and that moment of drama. This is called Journey to Mount Aetna. It's written in form of Tanka poems for Tanka. Old hill towns, acres of vineyards thrive in rich volcanic soil. We travel lava-paved roads along the lower slopes. Cinder blocks cast ashen shadows along the way. The rocky terrain jolts body and soul. My grandfather's stories of Mount Aetna's eruption, loss of his sister, widespread devastation, climb the mountain with us. Snow-capped summit, wisps of white smoke rise like so many ghosts. Breathing thin ashen air, we pay homage today. Thank you. And I'll just finish with a haiku and acknowledge it's not spring yet, but it feels like it. I agree with Mary on that. Spring wind, the red bottle brush tree, scrubbing the sky. Thank you all very much. Wonderful to be here with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. Those are great. And yeah, my friend Alfie from Sicily has been sending me the video of Mount Aetna erupting. So
Yeah.
it's a little scary. So next up, we have Dennis Formento. He's a friend of Chris Doors, and he's joining us from Slidell, Louisiana. So take it away, Dennis.
Hi, I'm Dennis Formento, and thanks for having me. I've been in touch with Chris Bodor, and he's the one that told me about the Ancient City Poets, so thanks to you all for allowing me to come in. I think I partially have your themes down. So I'm going to start with this one from my wife. I write a Valentine's poem for her every year and one on her birthday, usually. This is from her last birthday, last summer. Hard work. The voice of the barn owl, shadow that enters my mouth, and the yellow moon, the red moon on the horizon, the moon pulled up silently on the wall, the cross between a shadow and the back of your frame, the things you can't tell children. Life's work, and it stinks unless someone else bears part of the burden. For 17 years, you have been part of this life, nearly a quarter of my lifetime on earth. It seems not nearly so small, like I had just run 4 laps of the course before you caught me.
Thank you, Dennis. Dennis, I don't know if you can get closer to the microphone. Can you get closer to your microphone? It was a little hard to hear you. Yeah.
You couldn't hear me?
It was a little muffled and a little hard to hear, so if you can get closer.
I'm going to also try turning off my little speaker here that might deal with it. I
That's
don't know.
better. That's better.
I'm going to do that one again. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Closer even than that. Okay. Should I read that one again, or could you understand it? Or just move on?
I think maybe move on to the next one. I think, most of us heard it, but it was a little hard.
Okay, I'm going to read this one, because Doc and Joel both had some relevant things. A lady just passed away a few months ago, last December, named Gypsy Lou Webb. who typeset a wonderful, beautiful literary magazine in New Orleans called The Outsider. It came out in the 60s, 60 to 68. And they also did books. She and her husband, John, called it Lou John Press. The typography is just astounding, and Joel may be familiar with it. And the connection for Doc is that they were from Cleveland. And she was 104 years old when she passed away. And the poem is called I'm Telling You, Honey, I Don't Know What the Hell Is Going On. The old woman with jet black hair and red Mexican dress with me last night dream. But now I see you, Lou, with your nose grown as long as my foot, your hands rumpled and wrinkled, your hair black as only shoe polish can make it, swinging that red dress around your knees. I didn't want to dance. I didn't know it was you until this minute. With little bony legs and naughty little hands, Gypsy Lou. That must have been what it was coming to, where you were living in the basement. Knights of Columbus Old Folks Hall. Old soul, not the heroine of the Dylan song about Gypsy Lou. Ancient city lights, how'd that get in there? Neck deep in impermanence, last seen behind a plastic screen. No one told us where you'd be buried, Lou. Who would take you away? Dead phones on the other end of the line, unanswered emails. And all this time, I hear you saying your favorite line. I'm telling you, honey, I don't know. Thank you.
Is that it? Dennis?
Unless I have time for a third one, that's it.
Can we come back? Because we've got still a bunch of people that want to read. Let's see how much time we've got at the end. Okay, thank you. Up
I was
next,
just wondering.
okay, yeah, go ahead. Ruth Van Elstein, the Poetry Fairy.
The Florida Fairy. Thank you. So in keeping with today's theme, I did want to show everybody, I wrote a special Valentine zine that I sent to all my friends. There are a couple of haikus in here. Age before beauty, passionate kisses long past, friendship now cherished. And I'll save my last haiku for after my poem. I brushed this off today. This is from when I was younger, a couple of decades ago. If some of you can recall those days of after a romance broke up and perhaps it wasn't very amenable breakup, and it was when you might see that person again by the way. And so I wrote this after I had run into one of my past breakups when I was still hurting, actually at the gas pump. So I wrote this. I saw you today. A familiar movement, manner caught my eye as my heart skipped a beat, my pulse thickening. You were laughing as I watched, acting easy and without a care today. I saw you today. My mind screamed for you to see me so close, yet not seeing. I watched you easily moving without a care today. I saw you today. I wanted to greet you, to act as without a care, say hello, but dared not, lest my heartbreak show through the facade, expose my despair. I saw you today. My emotions surged into my chest and heart in a forceful blast explosion of what felt 1,000 bombs. I watched you acting as without a care today, unseen by you today. Thank you. And I will end with a Valentine's Day to bring joy or oft-time tears, love's passion flourish. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Okay, Natalie Beltrami. You know, Natalie, we can only see like from your nose up. Take yourself off mute.
So you want to see that whole thing, huh? I'm going to see if I can.
Beautiful face.
Okay, no screen sharing. Okay, all right. Well, I was going to. Well, I will still read it. A poem. Can you hear me? Because I've been having some internet problems. Okay, I'm going to read something that was something that I wrote about a picture for Pam Jam. And it's called Indecent Swell. Okay, you ready? Swelling and swirling, the tide of my emotions crests on the bank of desire and invades the secret hiding places between the rock-hard resolutions. I surrender to a passion born of the sea, an irrepressible wave that carries us to dangerous places we would not have dared to go, but are ever grateful not to have missed. I feel the tension of that wave as it curls and swells and surges to a peak, poising for one exquisite moment before release. Toying with tantalizing titillation, then plunging, pounding with the force of a primal imperative, undulating the turgid loins of the shore with pleasure. Ah, okay. So this is a little older, but on the same kind of concept. This is for the olders. Dear George, or was it John? It was lovely until it wasn't, more than half a century ago. Souls bared beneath a new moon, genitals pulsating, you struggling with the girdle, I willing accomplice, releasing the reluctant bra hook, inviting hands and lips to explore secret crevices, both slaves to pubescent passion. Now I wander through Facebook, hoping to find you, or youth, or passion, a hunger no late night snack can satisfy. I cannot sleep. I feel that pulsating pee through a mound of calendars, piles of crinolines and poodle skirts. Do you think of me? Try to track the path of names borrowed from ex-husbands through the cyber forest, hoping to find me before the wolf does, or the undertaker. I have left the door ajar, left the bra and girdle in my college dorm next to my copy of The Feminine Mystique. Buried my reluctance under a mound of birthday candles. I planted an orange tree yet today. Perhaps I will enjoy its juicy progeny with you, if you still have an appetite. And one last, if there's time. This is one I wrote a long time ago. I sit with you on the sharp edge of love, shining bright but dangerous, slicing through the tough leather of reason and plunging deep into heart meat. Painless unless the blade is withdrawn.
All right, Natalie, it's getting hot in here. So take off all your, no, don't take your clothes off. Okay, so that's why I love you. Michael Henry Lee.
Good afternoon, everybody. Michael Henry Lee. For those of you who don't know me, Japanese poetry stylist, working primarily in the spirit of haiku and senryu poets of ancient Japan. Although these are most of what I write are senryu, half of them are haiku. That's a topic for a workshop sometime. Valentine's Day, treating myself to her last chocolate. Valentine's Day, treating myself to her last chocolate. Girls' school, begging my parents to let me attend. Girls' school, begging my parents to let me attend. Dear John, his Valentine's message begins. Dear John, his Valentine's message begins. Our one and only concert, the last note lingers all the long ride home. Our one and only concert, the last note lingers all the long ride home. And lastly, this is kind of an old poem that I reworked it. Valentine's Day, braving a wind chill factor of -1. Valentine's Day, braving a wind chill factor of -1. Peace and love, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael Henry Lee. Always, always. That puts a smile on my face. Bruce McDermott, you are up next.
Yes, well, there have been a lot of references to Japan. Here's another one. This is based on a news story that I saw on television that came from Japan about a fellow who lost his wife and put a phone booth out in his backyard to discuss with her the things that go on every day with him. And before he knew it, as strange as that seems, his neighbors were queuing up to do the same thing, to talk to people that they had lost. So this is called A Phone Call Away. I rescued an old junked phone booth. It's in my backyard out of view under our red maple tree. The tree was planted there many years ago. The landscape company we hired assured us it was a dwarf and it would never get higher than 20 feet. I think it's at least 40 feet now. Still, it is beautiful and I've grown accustomed to it. The phone booth complements the alizarin red leaves of the tree. The gypsy moth caterpillars infested it this year. I learned their habits, stood a vigil. It helped a bit. But yes, I ramble on, I know. The booth has no telephone line, you say. That is perfectly true. Telephone lines are useless with the dead. I just need a place to sit and chat with her. We communicate on the winds. She was taken from me by an unseen monster, a virus that consumed her. Am I wasting my time, you ask? Of course not. Conversations can be a bit one-sided, but when we are grief-stricken, we should be free to do what we must to improvise and seek consolation from the pain of survival. And we ask, why are we left alone like this? I tried praying, but I choked on that question. The phone booth is better. It doesn't leave me terrified. The path is unchangeable, but tangible here. The future is resolving itself somewhere. I don't trouble myself with it any longer. I can find some measure of peace. She is only a phone call away. Thank you. This is called Wicked Windows. I heard the drone of God today. It's a fine old church with windows of yellow, blue, and green stained glass. All the way from Czechoslovakia, somebody said. The panes are filled with energetic swirls of those colors, like ocean waves roiled in a fantastic sea. They are completely opaque to the world outside, and a bit disconcerting as I sit there in a pew. I suppose a passerby must think it odd as well. No hint of what is going on in there. Maybe God as well, if he took the trouble and tried to peer in. Parishioners stand to tell of concerns they have. Fear, loss, and tribulation roil around the sanctuary until a hymn finally lays the litany of trauma to rest. I listen with unease, holding my breath, not because of anything I have heard, but because I cannot see out of these windows, these beautifully fashioned wicked windows. And thank you. One more, last one. This is called The Secret. He was short and dark with leathery skin. Much later, I saw photographs of the Basques from the French-Spanish border. He looked like that. He was a Canuck and a carpenter and a farmer. I had little interaction with him, though he was my grandfather. He didn't spend any time with any of his grandchildren. I thought little of it at 7 years old. There were plenty of things to occupy my attention on visits. There was the drone of airplanes flying low over the house on their landing approach to Hartford's Bradley Field. There were used up hulks of ancient rust-filled farm machines to be sat upon and coaxed into a pretend life of utility again. But one very hot August day, he asked me to accompany him. Together we entered the old cellar beneath the white asbestos shingled farmhouse. While I sat on an old orange crate in the cellar's corner, he turned to me and put his forefinger to his lips. Carefully, he removed the stone from the north-facing wall and pulled a flat brown bottle hidden in a space there. It held a rich, dark liquid, and he took a sip and then another until he had finished half the bottle. At last he said, "Now don't tell your grandmother." I don't recall another time that I ever spent with him. Why he took me into his confidence that one day has been a question never quite answered. Now he and their children have long since passed away, and all these many years later, I realize I never did confide his secret to anyone. It was the only gift he ever gave me. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Bruce.
Sure.
Shut us up next, and then Christy, I think we'll probably have time for you and Dennis. If you want to read your last poem too, I think we should have time for everyone. All right, so take it away, Shutta.
Can you hear me without a lot of feedback? There was a problem before. Do I sound okay, Loretta? Okay, good. Well, the first poem is not a love poem, but the second one is. But this poem, I had a picture of my dad. He had a 41 Mercury. He used to run moonshine across the Kentucky, West Virginia, the Big Sandy River. But this poem isn't about him per se. It was just something that triggered this. It's a little narrative poem. And it's called The Pittance, Pittance, The Pittance. His son was born in the middle of a thunderstorm on the seat of his 41 Mercury. The river so high it spat whole trees up from its churning waters. No way to get to the hospital. He stood in the rain waiting for someone, anyone, to tell him what he already knew. She was dead. What a waste of a good woman. And now him with a baby he'd not wanted. The big Sandy chomped at his feet, chewing its way up to the road. He thought about driving the Merc in, wondered what it'd feel like swallowing that muddy water, that dirt he dug his hands into every day, wondered if she'd already be there when he passed from this life, waiting, hangdog look and all. He pulled at his wet hair, swiped the water from the window, and stared in at his dead woman and at that pittance of a thing wrapped in her best sweater, its tiny face red with rage. Okay, a very hard knock little narrative. And this one is a love poem, though it's not physical love, as we've mostly been hearing today. And I have to preface it by something you might not know. In some Native cultures, East Asian as well as Native American cultures, there's often something called a counting rope, and it's knotted. And each story of your life that's important is a knot on that cord. And when you tell the story, you touch the knots, and it's a way of remembering and telling the story. So this is a poem called Entwined. A lightness of the heart wakens me, and I lie hand on chest, reclaiming each knotted love on the cord of my life. I think perhaps it is a wondrous thing to have a life woven of such lasting gossamer, each turning of the cord so fine, beloved histories tremble, each twist so strong, voices and scents fill me, each love there when I need to hold on, even when I do not know I need to hold on. When I wake in the night, I linger over my counting cord and touch the story of each silken knot with reverence. There is no place or time in which I am solely me alone. All my loves are entwined through this life. You are here too. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Shutta. All right. So Christy, let's circle back around to you. You ready to read?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. This will be a short poem from a longer collection called Contagion, a Love Story. And this one is section 11 called Charms. On a Roman terrace, a tenor sings Nessun Dorma, let no one sleep. None of us do. I've spent the night crocheting a chain with a muslin pouch for the garlic. When you leave home, always wear this necklace to ward off scourge. Now, whenever he smells allium, he feels safe and hopeful. A roasting head of garlic triggers a shower of moonbeams, his baritone bliss. He sings, voice besotted with olfactory humility, to a woman whose name evokes marls and marigolds. The market stripped of pasta and garlic. How could I cook minestra maritata? Your soup was the best thing to happen to me all spring, he says. A woman shakes her tambourine. On the plaza, a man does jumping jacks. People on balconies join in. This has a little postscript. At the time I was ordering my groceries, and so this was a grocery delivery. While revising this poem, my order arrived. Instead of one garlic head, my personal shopper brought 8. An airborne word virus multiplying. Perfect time for Julia Child's garlic soup with an egg yolk liaison. Delicieux. You know, I found this, I was looking for something to read today, and I found something accidentally by Lynn Lifshin. Since we're honoring the people who have died recently, this is called Valentine Day Madonna. It's only 4 lines. Valentine Day Madonna is red, spreads out, waits for your arrow. Okay, thank you.
So, hey, thank you, Christy, so much, my co-host. Dennis, are you able to read your other one? I know you're like sideways right now, but you want to read the one that we can't hear you. Get off mute. There, oh, where'd he go? He keeps coming in and out. Dennis, you're on mute.
There we go. Am I
Okay.
sideways no more?
Yeah, and you
Okay.
sound much better. So go ahead, read your third
Okay,
poem.
great. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I dropped out a couple of times. I don't know why. This one follows up in the poem about the phone booth. A real old man that lived down the street from me when I was a kid. Haunted old man. Suddenly reminded of an old Plymouth. A man down the street from me had parked on his front lawn, an extension cord run out to the car where it powered a storm lamp, hung over the dashboard. The old man was waiting for his daughter to come home. She had been killed years before, drunk with her boyfriend in a car wreck. Sign above the porch said, "That's it, period." That's it. Period. Thank you.
All right. So thanks everyone. We have a little time, so if you all don't mind, I would like to read, I was trying to read a Lawrence Ferlinghetti poem and another thing, and they wanted like original stuff. So he was one of, along with Rod McEwen, one of my many muses. And I used to read this poem when I was very young and thought, wow, this is going to be a sad poem to read when I'm older. So it was pictures of the gone world. Just as I used to say, love comes harder to the aged because they've been running on the same old rails too long. And then when the sly switch comes along, they miss the turn and burn up the wrong rail while the gay caboose goes flying and the steam engine driver don't recognize them new electric horns, and the aged run out on the rusty spur, which ends up in the dead grass where the rusty tin cans and bed springs and old razor blades and old and moldy mattresses lie. And the rail breaks off dead right there, though the ties go on a while, and the aged say to themselves, well, this must be the place where we're supposed to lie down, and they do, while the bright saloon careens along away on a high hilltop, its windows full of blue sky and lovers, with flowers, their long hair streaming, and all of them laughing and waving and whispering to each other and looking out and wondering what that graveyard where the rails end is. So thanks everybody. Does
Wait.
What?
You know, David was mentioning Cummings today, and probably I would love if there's time to read. It's a very short poem.
Go ahead. We've got 9 minutes.
A short poem by E.E. Cummings that is my most favorite in all the world.
Go ahead.
So if I can find it, wait a minute. Okay. If I have made my lady intricate, imperfect, various things, chiefly which wrong your eyes, frailer than most deep dreams are frail. Songs less firm than your body's whitest song upon my mind. If I have failed to snare the glance too shy, if through my singing slips the very skillful strangeness of your smile, the keen, primeval silence of your hair, let the world say his most wise music stole nothing from death. You only will create, who are so perfectly alive, my shame. Lady, through whose profound and fragile lips, the sweet, small, clumsy feet of April came into the ragged metal of my soul.
Thank you, Natalie. Is there anyone else who would like to read anything?
Well, thank you, everybody. It's been a good
Can I
day.
put in a plug for North Florida?
Yes, go ahead. Plug it.
I'm president of North Florida Poetry Hub, and we have 3 workshops every month online, and we're here in Jacksonville, but we serve Northeast Florida and beyond. You can find us on northfloridapoetryhub.org or on Facebook. And so everyone is welcome to come and visit us and take part in our free workshops. We'd love to see everyone.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Yes, I've been in
Thank
some
you,
of your
Loretta.
workshops, and they're awesome.
And I'm an ACP as well. I have been since 2012.
I need that picture.
Natalie, I have a question for Natalie. Did you want to talk about the show on the 20th?
Oh, yes, I would. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a show. Telltellers has a show called Double X Marks the Spot. It's a show about of women's empowerment. It has a little bit of the usual about the 100 years of women's voting, but it's really about the process of women's empowerment, which is very important, I think, especially in this day and age. I think we need some female power in our world. There may be a little too much testosterone. So anyway, it is on the 20th of it's on the 20th of March. It's out at Airstream Row, which is out on the east side of the Volano Bridge, underneath the Volano Bridge, actually. You turn where you would turn to go to Publix, and you just keep going. And it's at 7:30, and it's outside. So anyway, it's at 7:30, and we're hoping the sun will have gone down because it's a multimedia production.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's not just your usual. It's not just your usual storytelling experience.
If anybody's interested in advance tickets, you can go to the site Telltellers of St. Augustine, and if you want to purchase things in advance, you can do that.
Thank you for reminding me, Chris. Yes, yes, I did have that in my pocket, but I got carried away with my E.M. Cummings because that's one of my favorite poems in all the world. So, all right.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Yeah, Doc, you got something? Go ahead.
I have something. It's the ekphrastic poem created by the North Florida Poetry Hub in response to my challenge. It's titled Through a Weathered Window. What place or space did you, O weathered window, grace? Artful Gothic panes seen in photographs of days gone by. Cathedral arches lead the way to heaven's gate. It was an aged treasure, now become shabby chic. Losing painted mask, eyes of leaded glass stare at us from bygone times through the haze of age. Who knows what sights were seen through its lovely panes? Rusty peels of paint curls, broken and longing to be again. Perhaps to hide discreetly, protected by the darkened panes, afraid to reveal a face disfigured and broken. Panes of colored glass, tiny moments of the past, love of the ages, peeled back and torn, like old friends gone away. What place or space did you, O weathered window, grace?
Oh, nice.
Right.
Very nice. Very
Yeah.
nice.
Wow.
That's the combination of 5 people's poems made
Oh,
into
that's
one.
cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
Very nice. Thank you. So yeah, I'll do one, Pam Jam. We've got Pam Jam coming in April. We'll be announcing Pam Jam Jacksonville, Pam Jam Ponte Vedra. Got Ruth, Shutta, Chris, who else? A bunch of new people in it. Mary Deno, yeah, I've got to call you because it's a gathering of poets and we need one more poet. And they said you used to be part of a gathering of poets at the Ponte Vedra Library. So I'm going to reach out to you and see. But we'll be making a big announcement in April with the new Pam Jams. Anybody else? Shutta, you got anything going on you want to tell people about?
Well, I won a contest.
That's always great.
And it's not getting published until March. It was the Third Wednesday Journal out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. That's my other town where I am half the year. And I guess, well, they had 650 entries, so it's not bad.
That's fabulous. Wow.
And it comes with a whole $100.
All right.
Not going to get rich writing poetry.
No, nobody does. So,
anyway, more on that later.
Okay. Anything else before we sign off?
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Have a great night, everybody.
Love you, poets.
Good writing.
See you in the spring.